Well, hi everybody. My name's Jim Nelson, and these are simple and quick special effects that anybody can do. I know at first glance you're saying, no way, that's pretty complicated. But it really isn't, and I'm going to show you just how to do it step by step. So here we go. What I'm going to do first is I'm going to press the F key, and that gives us different views. And so we're going to move this out of the way by doing our little yellow middle key there. This is what we're going to start with. It's a blank metal golden plate sign that I got at Bing publicdomain.com. They have all kinds of free images that you can use on your website for free. So what we're going to do, we're going to start here, and we're going to do just what that special effect frame looks like. We're going to start with this photo right here, and I'm going to bring my tools back with the tab key. There's my tools. Here's all your tools, and I am not going to tell you every tool because you don't need to know every tool. A lot of tutorials just bog you down with a lot of useless information that you really don't need. This is something that you do need though, and this is what up here is your select bar, and you want to say select all. Okay, so the marching ants are around here. That's your selection marquee. And then you want to go over here to your direct selection tool, press here and hold and drag it over to here, and that's where our photo is going to be. And we're going to decide how big our photo is going to be on top of there. So that's a pretty good size right there, and we can move it around with the direct selection tool right there. Okay, now we're going to show what our layers are looking like. We now have two layers, and these are your layers over here, and these will let you see the layer or not see the layer, this eyeball. If you press this eyeball, that layer disappears. If you press this eyeball, that layer disappears. Okay, so what we want to do is put a frame over this now. So we go over to our frame. This is another free image that I found on publicdomain.com on Bing. I want to go over here to select all. I'm selecting the frame, and I'm going to drag it over on top like this, and there it is. Oh, that frame is so small. Well, it doesn't matter. That's how small it was, but we're going to make it bigger with these tools here. If we go to Edit, Free Transform, or I'm sorry, Transform, all these things will come up. Scale, you can rotate it, you can skew it, you can distort it, perspective, and warp. What we're going to do right now is use scale. And then it puts these little handles around the whole thing. Now you want to press on one of the handles and bring it over to where you want it in your frame. So we're going to say about that big. Okay, double click it, and there's your frame. Now your photo's bigger behind that, but don't worry about that. Now we're going to go to this frame here. Now this blue line tells you which of the layers is selected. So now we want to pop this out, and we want to go over to here to our, this is our selection tool here. Click it, and that selected the inside. Now we want to pop that out of there, and so we want to do Edit, Clear, and that pops that out of there, see? So we don't need this amount of photo anymore, so let's go to Select, Deselect, and we'll go back to our photo, which is right here. You can see the photo, and we'll select that layer, and now we can get rid of that photo behind there with our marquee. Our marquee will select what we want to get rid of, and it'll only select that layer because that's the only layer that is selected with the blue line. Now we want to go up to Edit, Clear, and now that photo is gone. So now we want to go Select, Deselect, and that gets rid of your marquee that you don't want there anymore. Now this is really cool. we're going to put a drop shadow right here, and it's going to make it pop off the frame. Now I want to do it with this frame, so we want to select the frame layer. Okay, now we've got 3 layers, and we're going to go down here to this FX box, press on that, and all these come up. And I'm going to press drop shadow, and here is your really cool layer style palette that's going to come up. And on the left here are all these choices here. We're going to do a drop shadow. Okay, this is the angle of the drop shadow. This is the opacity, or how light or how dark it is. This is the distance of it, so we can make our drop shadow come down like that. We can make it larger or smaller, and that's the size of it, and we can bring it down like that. We can lighten it with our opacity and make it pop right off the frame like that. Okay, so we'll press OK, and there's our drop shadow. Now we can move this down, up and down to where we want it, because we don't have enough space here to put type, which is what I want to do. So if we press this and shift and press that one together, now we have them both selected. So both of these layers are selected, and if I press my direct selection tool, now with my arrow keys I can move this down. Oh, it says the layer's locked. So what we first have to do is unlock this layer, this background layer here, and we'll just double click it, and then it becomes a layer. See, it says layer 0 now. So now it's not locked. So now we'll go back and select both of these. Make sure our direct select tool is selected. Now if we use our arrow keys, we can move these things up and down. But that's not really what I want to do. I want to move this photo up and down. Well, that's interesting. Well, that's not really what I want to do. So let's see. I think it's the first one that you select that it's going to work. So we're going to undo the nudge. We're going to deselect these. If I do this first and this second, I believe that it will work. Oh, no. Okay, I see what I'm doing. I got these selected. It should be this one and this one selected. Okay, now with our direct select tool we can move it down. That's what I'm trying to do. Okay. And there's your frame with a 3-dimensional pop-out effect. Okay, now we're going to put some type up here, and we're going to grab our type tool, which is right here, T for type. Who would have thought, right? And we're going to select that. It takes a little time to come up, and that's going to make its own type layer above everything else. Well, actually it's going to be right below whatever's selected. So we now have a type layer. As we press our tool right here, we get a cursor, and as soon as we type, we're going to make a type. Oh, actually we have a type layer right there. It says T, and whatever words you type in there, that's the words that's going to name this layer. Alright, so we are going to type, we're going to use copper plate. That's our font, regular. We're going to try 72 point and see what that looks like. So we're going to write simple and quick. Alright, here we'll go back to our direct selection tool, press that, and now we can move this to wherever we want it. And we can go back to our cool effects. Now this is just going to affect the type layer. We're going to press effects, and we're going to press drop shadow, and there's our drop shadow. And we're going to see how far we're going to put it. So we'll do size. We can do it that way. We can do spread. We can do it darker. Distance. This is how far it is going to be. And then we'll bring it up a little bit so we can see it. And then this will blur it a little bit. So that's the distance. This will blur it like that, and we'll bring it down a little bit so it's just a little bit like that. Alright, so they're simple and quick, and we could also put a bevel and emboss on that. Just put a simple bevel and emboss, just something different like that. Okay, that's a little bit different than what we had, but hey, it's my show. So we can move this up now with our direct selection tool. Alright, and we could make a larger type underneath that. And we'll say, now our next effect, we are going to make a little bit larger type. So what we have 72 before, so we're going to go a little bit larger. Now if it's not in this row, we can make our own size. So let's make it, I don't know, 90 point, and then enter. Alright, so now we have another layer for our type, and we'll say special effects. Okay, maybe it could be a little bit bigger. I think we'll go a little bit bigger than that, so let's say 95. So 95, enter, and it's a little bit bigger. Now if we go back here to our direct selection tool, we can move it as soon as our little clock stops running. Okay, we're going to move this to over to here. Now we want this to be a different color. Here's our colors down here. This is our foreground, this is our background. So our foreground, we're going to do a blue type. So we'll pick about that color right there, right there. We'll say OK. Alright. So now we go to our type tool. We can go back to our type, select it, and drag across it. And then it'll pick up this color if we use these little arrows right here and flip it back to the foreground and to the background. So now, if you go back to your direct selection tool, now you have a color in your type. And you can move it down a little bit if you'd like. Alright. Now we go back to this special effect frame right here, FX, and we want to do a bevel. It's called a bevel and emboss. We can do a cool effect there, and we want to, that's how deep it could go. This is the size. We can go a little bit deeper that way. We can soften it and just make it look really cool 3D like that. And we can put a drop shadow on it. So we'll put our drop shadow here, select this, and then this different dialog box comes up. This is the distance, so we can move that like that, make it look like 3D. Put the opacity back a little bit so it looks real. Alright, and say OK. Alright, so now you've got your photo and you got your type. Now we're going to put some type down here and show that effect. So we'll press our type again. That'll make another layer as soon as we press this. Okay, and I'm going to do with Jim Nelson. Hey, that's a great name. Okay, so we'll select that with our tool and drag across it. Now this, we want to have the color of this background, so it'll look like it's inside. So what we want to do now is take our eyedropper tool, which is right here, click on it, and that will sample any color that you click on it, and it'll put it in your foreground box right here. So if we click on this, it'll be blue. If we click over here, it'll be different colors here, but we want to do this color right here that looks like the background of this color right here. Alright, so now can you remember what we do? We would go back to the type tool, we'll drag across this, and we'll flip these back and forth, and now that color is on there. There's probably an easier way to do that, but that's the way that I do it. Then we go back to the direct selection tool, Now you can barely see that type, but you'll be able to see it soon